Welcome back, guys. I'm going to quit listing the number of the episode because I keep getting it wrong and it makes me feel like a big dummy. So welcome back to this episode, which is the next episode after the preceding episode. I've also had a number of constructive criticism comments about the quiet volume of the first several episodes. So I have reduced the in-game volume a little bit and have tried to get the most volume out of my mic as possible. I have also added a third row of housing so we can get some more NPCs moving in, and we are just going to dive right into that Crimson and try and take on that second boss. We can leave some of this stuff home. Some of it, I suppose. Never mind. Let's turn the auto pause back off. So I want to take some of these potions we made with us. Shine will come in handy while we explore. Regen, swiftness, and iron skin, those are big ones. Hunter couldn't hurt. The painter moved in. You can buy paintings and interesting back wall kind of color wallpaper and stuff from him, as well as paintbrushes that you can use to paint the bricks that you've laid down. So say you want a black house, you can buy a bunch of black paint and just paint it on. You know, it's almost nighttime. I'm thinking we could fight the Eye of Cthulhu again. Nah, you guys get the idea. Think you could see how it can be done with the shurikens. So if you really don't have a weapon, that's what you should use. Just make sure you use the best potions you got. I highly recommend iron skin at least. And just pay attention. Don't try and record a YouTube commentary while you're fighting them and you'll do fine. Now, I ran by one of these earlier. I never stopped to explain what it is. This is the altar that I was referring to. When you want to make a boss summoning item, you've got to bring the ingredients next to one of these altars, and that will allow you to craft it. They serve a secondary purpose later on in the game. We won't go into it now, but just keep that in mind. So each crimson looks essentially like this. You'll have this sort of winding tunnel leading down to a large central room with little branches that contain the actual crimson hearts. This large open central room is perfect for setting up your arena. Some people like to wall off these extra tunnels that they're not going to use, just so that monsters don't come out and get in the way of the fighting. But if you're strong enough to easily handle the monsters, then it's not really necessary. And these weapons we have handle them pretty well, so I'm not too concerned about them. It can actually be something of a benefit to have them coming out and fighting you while you're fighting the boss, because they can drop the little hearts that heal you. They don't drop them when you're full health, but if you're taking damage from the boss, then that can really be a good thing. So much like the Eye of Cthulhu. We're just making several rows of platforms, giving ourselves some options to move and dodge and stay mobile. That really is the key in a lot of these boss fights, is just being able to move and get out of the way of their attacks. This boss especially moves around a lot, especially during the second stage of the fight. So I think I'm going to extend these platforms out a little bit further. That's probably good. Okay. I think these are the weapons I want to use. These are the potions I want to drink. So let's bring on the boss. In an earlier episode I mentioned that okay, I thought the platinum pickaxe could dig through this stuff, but I guess not. So good thing I brought explosives. Alright, once we smash this thing open, we're gonna have our second boss. Alright, we gotta get back into our arena. Alright, so the brain itself cannot be hurt in this first phase. He teleports around and he fires these eyeball yo-yo things at you. You gotta kill all these eyeballs before you can actually damage the brain itself. Forgot to use my potions. That's where that quick buff comes in handy. Rather than having to stop and drink each potion individually, you just hit that quick buff potion button and bam, we're ready to go. I'm tempted to use the water bolt. It is a very good weapon for this fight, but you may or may not be able to get the water bolt. Every other weapon I have you can get, but it's not guaranteed, so I'm not going to use it until we get to a point where you can guarantee that you would have it. Otherwise you're not learning anything. Also, I didn't make a campfire. There we go. Hope the process of making the campfire didn't get me killed. Alright, once we kill that eye, he changes into his second form, where he teleports around and tries to just ram you. This rotted fork really is the perfect weapon for this fight. It has good knockback, so it prevents him from running into you. and has just enough reach to hit those eyeballs early on. So really the only way he can hit us is to teleport to the other side when we're not ready for it. Otherwise we've got him in the bag. Now this boss is not like the Eye of Cthulhu. The Eye of Cthulhu can only be summoned at night. He can be summoned at any time, but you have to remain inside of the Crimson. If you leave the Crimson, he will despawn. There we got a whole bunch of Crimson ore and a whole bunch of tissue samples. Those are the other half of the equation here. So now if we make our Crimson bars, and put down our anvil, now you can see Crimson bars with tissue samples. We can make a lot of things we couldn't make before. Crimson armor, those we could already make, but the armor, the pickaxe, the what was that, a hammer, the meatball. This is a flail. It counts as a melee weapon, but it has a little bit of range to it. The yo-yos, I haven't done much with the yo-yos yet, so I'm not really able to recommend you try using them. But oh, got that put away too soon. I wanted to take that pickaxe. So now with that pickaxe we can mine through the rest of this junk. Alright, let's store some stuff. I want to try and break enough of these orbs to fight them again. Since you've already seen me do it once, I will speed up this second fight. Alright, there he is. Round 2. Okay, we got a bone rattle. These items are kind of rare. They summon a little pet that follows you around. You equip them into your pet slot there. And this one summons a little baby face monster. And he doesn't fight, he doesn't do anything. He just kind of follows us around and keeps us company. So those are kind of cool. Also, we got a Crimson Rod. That is a very good magic weapon. So we're going to equip it right now. What it does is it summons this little rain cloud that just continually rains down damage on anything below it. So you want to remember to use that in every boss fight or every big encounter. Here, I'll demonstrate it on this guy for you. So, very, very powerful. There's only one other item like it that I know of right now. They may have included more in a later patch, or sorry, they may have included more in the recent patch, but yeah, that's the only other one I know of you can't get until the second half of the game, so that's a good find. And looks like we've smashed all the Crimson Hearts, so we can go back home and see what we can't make with all of our resources here. I think we've got enough to make the Crimson Armor, which is a huge upgrade to what we have right now. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's much better. So greatly increases our life regen. We get a 2% increase to damage, and our defense is now 27. That is much better than what we were. And we get this cool little particle effect everywhere we go. Let's see what else we can make. I think there's a few more things. There was a better fishing pole. We already got the pickaxe. Don't need the sword. Don't really need the axe either. We haven't really done anything with the bow yet. Haven't really needed to. Our magic weapons are much better, and they don't use ammo. So let's just get that fishing pole and call it good. We don't even really need to fight the Eye of Cthulhu again. We will be finding the item that summons the Eye of Cthulhu everywhere we go throughout the game. So, you know, don't worry. We don't really need to go out of our way to fight him again. He'll come to us. I suppose this would be a good time to do a little bit of fishing. Except, yeah. Okay, that's going to take us back to the Crimson. So let's go over there and we'll talk about fishing. Okay, so when you go fishing, technically you can go fishing in any size body of water. But the bigger the body of water, the better our chances are of finding something good. Also, if the body of water is too small, then you will not be able to catch any fish whatsoever. You just get junk. I don't think this body of water is quite big enough. Now the way the game calculates the size of the body of water is it looks at how deep the water is from the surface for each column of the surface. So this would be 1, that would be 1, that would be 1, this would be 2, this would be 3, and it adds that all up all the way across the water to determine the size of the pond. If you have an overhang, like say we do that, it will not count this entire area of the water underneath the overhang. So when you're looking for an ideal place to fish, it's worth spending a little bit of time to kind of clean the area up, make sure there's no overhangs, and you might even need to add some water to it to get it big enough. I'll show you how to do that right now. This is why we get a bucket. So what we can do is put some water in our bucket by just clicking on the water with the bucket. We now have a water bucket, and we're going to use a trick to duplicate water. This has been around since as long as I've been playing the game, at least. You make a U out of any kind of block, dirt, whatever you want to use, and when you click to dump the water out on the rim of the U, it'll split the water in half. Half of it goes into your little bowl, I guess we'll call it, and the other half goes down into the lake. Now when you click on the half that's in the bowl, you now have a full bucket of water again. And you can do this over and over and over, and you can see the pond is filling up. You can also hold down the button to continuously dump water, and if we do that right here on the lip of this bowl, it will continually dump and refill our bucket at the same time it spills water down into our little lake. So that is called water duplication. You can do it with any liquid in the game. So we're going to move up our little platform a little bit higher so we can really fill this up. And then we're going to speed this up while I make this lake big enough to fish in. So the way that you fish, you just click to throw your bait out there, and when you see this start moving, you click again to reel it in. If it goes a long time without moving at all, then that means there's not enough water to fish in. Okay, bass is generic, so that doesn't tell us anything. Specular fish, I think that might be generic too. The specular fish, oh, there's our specialty. Our specialty, what do you call it? That's the quest fish. That's what we came here to get. The specular fish is used to create recall potions, I believe. So they're handy early on, but less so later on when we find an item that does the same thing as recall potion, but it's a magic item. Uses mana instead of actually drinking a potion. So we've found what we came here for. Let's use a recall potion, and we're going to turn that quest in by talking to the angler. Click on quest again, and it gives us a little bit of text. We got an achievement. Guess that was the first time I've fished since the new build. He gave us some gold, and he gave us apprentice bait. That is a bait that we can use instead of worms. As you can see, it is weaker than the worms. I'm just going to throw that away because we're never going to use it. So iron or lead bars along with a little bit of wood, you can make a cooking pot. And the cooking pot lets us take the bass and some of the other random fish we catch and turn it into cooked fish. It gives you 20-minute improvement to most of your stats. That's really the only thing you can do with those random fish that you catch. So that is definitely worth looking into. We've got full crimson gear, some very powerful weapons. We are ready for the next stage of the game. We're going to take a short detour, go fight the boss of the corruption in a different world, since each world can only have either crimson or corruption. Let's go take care of that real quick. Okay, so this purple stuff here, this is the corruption. It has these long vertical sort of elevator kind of shafts. This here is the demon altar. This is the corruption version of the crimson altar. The enemies are different. And then it's got these shadow orbs, which is their version of the crimson hearts. Same thing applies. Use explosives or a strong enough pickaxe to dig down and smash them with a hammer. But they also have different items. Like right there I got a musket. On that one I got a shadow orb. A shadow orb is a something of a magical item. It's called a light pet. You equip it just like your other pet, and this one creates this little orb that follows you around and emits light. This one is the weakest of the light pets, so the light that he gives you is minimal at best, but still better than nothing. I'm just going to dig down and break that one open to start the boss fight. So this boss is called the Eater of Worlds. It is a huge worm, and he follows the same rules as the other worm type enemies. So he can only move by moving through solid blocks and stuff. What a lot of people like to do is find one of the vertical shafts and put some platforms in it, and then fight him as he comes around the walls. I think we'll use this one for that. So you're probably seeing a recurring theme here. When you sign up for a boss fight, you really just want platforms everywhere. Since you can jump through them, you can push down to fall through them. It gives you a lot of mobility, and that's how you stay alive. Let's get some more platforms. That'll probably do it. Just like with any large boss, piercing weapons are the key. Shurikens are a little bit too weak. Thinking our rotted fork will probably do the job. Let's see. 100 potion will come in handy. It'll allow us to see him coming. Yeah, I'm not seeing any other weapons we have that we could use to fight him with. We'll definitely have to remember to use the Crimson Rod. Aside from that, we just gotta keep our health up and try not to just stand there and take tons of damage from him. Since he's so big, he can't really move, or he moves fast, but he can't really change direction quickly. So once he's kind of committed to an attack, he kind of stays there and gives us time to react. So I'm just going to use bombs to kind of dig our way over here and set this one off. Also, if you want to drop a bomb without it rolling all over the place, just go straight down from your character with the mouse towards the bottom of the screen, and that'll make sure that you throw it absolutely straight down. If you just go a little bit below your character, it's not going to be perfectly straight and it's going to roll around on you. Okay, that's close enough. Alright, so here we go, Eater of Worlds. Again, this is the alternate second boss. There he is. So, you can see I wasn't joking around when I said he's very, very big. Oh, gotta remember my Crimson Rod. There we go. That's much better. Now this boss is interesting in that each of these segments has its own pool of hit points. Once we kill a segment, it will break off and become its own separate creature, as you can see here. So now we've got two of these things flying around. Now we've got three. But now there's three of them, but they're also a lot weaker. A lot smaller, harder for it to trap us, and as long as we don't stand there and just take repeated damage, we'll do just fine. There you go. The Eater of Worlds, ladies and gentlemen. So he drops Demonite Ore, which you can turn into Demonite Bars, and then also the Shadow Scales, which is the corrupt version of the tissue samples from the Brain of Cthulhu. And it all crafts a very similar set of equipment. They have their own sword, their own pickaxe, their own hammer, their own set of armor. We're not going to make that just because it really doesn't matter which one you get. It's going to be the next set of armor you want to have. So we're gonna leave here and go back to our original world. Okay, so here we are back in our original world. I've already deposited all this extra stuff I had in the different chests. At this point we are at a bit of a crossroads. We are now capable of going into the dungeon, which is the next step in the progression. However, there are a few things that we can do as a detour, depending on how we want to play the game. So I'm going to go ahead and explore each of our possible detours that we can take right now. These sort of optional areas, optional bosses that we can take on to get different sets of armor, different weapons. If you want to be a summoner, there's a boss that you can fight that's really good for doing that. If you want to be a throwing weapons expert, there's a boss that gives you armor for that. And we'll explore the rest of the overworld, and then we will head into the dungeon. So that's going to be it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.